Welcome to Reinventing Yourself in Changing Times. It's the summit series on finding clarity, direction, and the steps to move from stress to purpose and unleashing the new you. This is your resource that will take you one step closer to your very reinvention. Viewers, commit to taking one action after you watch this interview. I'm your host, Mitta, wellness entrepreneur. Let's get on to our speaker. Here today with us is Cathy O'Dowd, South African mountaineer. Cathy is the first woman in the world to climb Mount Everest from both sides. Her many high Himalayan expeditions provided extensive experience with individuals and teams facing stress, risk, and overwhelming challenge. She shares these insights with her corporate audiences through story-driven expedition case studies. She's an internationally acclaimed motivational speaker, spoken in 45 countries, and she remains an active adventurer. In COVID allowing, in summer of 2021, she'll be doing an exploratory sea kayak expedition along the coast of Greenland. Very exciting. Her topic today is embrace the journey to achieve your summit. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes, it's very exciting to have you here. Thank you. So, Cathy, tell us a little bit. I know that we have this these amazing Himalayan experiences and Everest experiences, but tell us a little bit about your earlier life, your pre-Everest, life.
I think possibly the most striking thing about it was how much it wasn't a preparation to become a mountain climber, nor was it, frankly, a lifelong dream. I grew up in Johannesburg, so that's the biggest city in South Africa, and it's on this enormous high-altitude grass plain, so there isn't a mountain in sight. I lived in the suburbs with parents who didn't do any kinds of outdoor sport at all. I went to a school designed to produce little ladies, and we did sort of, ladies team sport, netball and hockey and things like that. I hated it. I was terrible at it. So I discovered hiking and camping as a teenager through summer camps. And as soon as I got to university, I discovered rock climbing and loved it because it's so personal. I never liked the win-lose aspect of team sport. But rock climbing was such a personal challenge. It happened in such a wild, beautiful environment, entirely away from, human structures. And then from there, it was a journey of curiosity, from rock climbing to mountains, to slightly higher mountains, to slightly colder mountains. And simply pursuing those opportunities to see where they take me.
Wow. So what was your motivating factor to actually do Everest? Was it just the next biggest thing, like you said, the next biggest, coldest thing?
I had no wish to do Everest. Well, actually, that's probably not true. It was beyond my scale of thinking. I would never have put my hand up. This was a long time ago, and have said, "Oh yeah, me, I'm your woman for Everest." All I wanted to do was get on an expedition that went to the Himalaya, anywhere in the Himalaya. And this is long before guided commercial expeditions existed. So you had to find a kind of a local team that would take you. And of course, they don't want to take people they don't know. They don't want to take people with less experience. And going out of South Africa, there were so few expeditions anyway. It's almost impossible to break in. And of course, it's a very masculine world, and even more so, this is getting on for over 25 years ago.
Wow.
So when I saw this newspaper article about the first South African Everest expedition, and there was this team, and they were all men, and they were all looking, tough and hard. And then the newspaper was a sponsor, and they were running a competition to find a girl to add to the team, as if she was a flag that was going to get, taken to the top. And it was all about, frankly, sexing up the coverage, And I looked at this and I thought, this is sexist. When the men have been invited, the women are having to compete with each other to get the crumbs of an opportunity. So on one hand, I really didn't like it. And on the other hand, it was the only opportunity I had seen. So I took it. I was one of 200 women who applied and the one eventually selected to join the team.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you. You know, sometimes you have to just do things and, take that step, right? So tell us about, one of your challenges on Everest and how you overcame it. What was your mindset type thing, to overcome one or two of your challenges on Everest?
I suspect with this sort of question, people always expect an answer that involves, I don't know, towering cliffs of ice or something. But that's not actually the problem. You need to be good enough to climb the physical difficulties, but that's not where people and teams fail. They almost always fail mentally or emotionally because the entire experience is too much, rather than they get stopped by one single cliff of ice. So for me, the biggest problem, I'm already in a sport where there are very few women who do this. And then I've come onto this team in this very uncomfortable way. I feel as if I have token woman stamped on my forehead. And I'm trying to kind of earn my space in this team as a full member. And what interested me about that was there were several things that had to happen to move into that space. I had to find and express my confidence in my own ability. I had it, but I had to show it. I had to speak up when it came to contributing to team decisions. I think as a well-bred girl who was, I was always waiting for the moment where I would be invited into the conversation. But if you're in it with a bunch of go-getting men, there's no space. You've got to put your elbows out and create a space for your voice in the discussion. And that took some doing, in that situation. And then the funny thing was, I also had to get over feeling like the token woman. Because even when the men around me were like, oh, yeah, she's fine. She's an asset, not a problem, move on forward. I was still terribly concerned about not being seen to be weak or not being, and I had to let go of that.
Right.
And get comfortable with both being a woman, which means, for example, when I get highly stressed, I burst into tears, which makes men very uncomfortable. But I was also a thoroughly competent climber and an asset to the team. And you could be both, and that's okay.
Wow. I love the way that you said that. So I know you have, since Everest and those amazing accomplishments, I know you climbed both sides. What kind of work have you done? I know you've done some different kinds of work since then. You've done a lot of speaking. What other kinds of things have you done?
That is my work. I'm a professional speaker.
Wow.
So I do inspirational presentations for big corporates. Wow. And that's that. I mean, I wrote a book, but the royalties on a book sort of buy you a nice lunch every 6 months. And that's about it. So no, I'm a professional speaker. Wow. And it's been a gift of a career because I only really need to work about half the time. And the rest of the time, I'm free to go and climb and ski and explore and do all the different mountain sports that really sort of fill me with joy.
Wow, that's great. So you talk about finding your purpose and putting the journey ahead of the goal. What does that mean exactly for you? What does it mean?
Well, what I find is because I'm known for such a terribly goal-focused activity, people assume that that's what it's about. They use this terrible word of conquer. You conquer Everest. Now, honestly, you don't. It's as if it's as if an ant climbed to the top of your refrigerator and planted a flag and announced they've conquered the fridge. The fridge doesn't give a damn. We don't conquer Everest. We just tiptoe lightly, we hope, to the top and try and get back down again. And I think it's a mistake, in my opinion, to be heavily goal-focused. It works for some people. So let's say I'm speaking to the rest of us who get this very goal-driven narrative in our current Western culture, but don't always feel like it's 100% speaking to us. I've got goals because they give me direction. I can be lazy and not get out of bed, and I can be disorganized and go around in circles. So having a goal focuses the journey in a direction that is interesting to me. But what I'm actually after is the experience of trying to reach the goal. I'm interested, I'm curious about whether I can do it, whether my team can do it, and what we'll encounter on the way, and whether we can manage that. And that includes whether we can fail successfully, which is a funny idea. But if your mountain's difficult, it's entirely possible you won't get to the top. So you can either fail in a way that is disastrous. People are injured, people are killed. It's a mess. Or you can fail in ways that are effective. You saw the dangers, you turned around at the right time, you had an exit plan in place, despite the fact that things are getting more and more risky. You went through the plan, and you safely extracted yourself. And the confidence that comes from knowing that you can escape from difficult circumstances is really empowering. So I'm just much more interested in what's to be found and learned in the process. And if I get to the top, that's nice. I hope the sun's shining. I hope I get some good photographs. But it's not the point.
Wow. So that would also come into chasing skills, not summits, right? So there's a similar thing, but you've also talked about building your survival rucksack. What is that?
Yes. So again, this is a feeling I have against the current cultural narrative around success. People very much goal-driven and then ticking them off. And of course, one of the things as a climber is you get to the top of the mountain, you get back to base camp, and there's kind of a weird post-expedition depression because the focus is gone, the summit is over, it was a pile of snow, it's yesterday's story, life moves on.
Wow.
So, and the other thing I see is people trying to shortcut. So you want to say you conquered Everest. Well, the easy way to do it is to raise about $80,000 and just pay a guide to walk you up on a short rope with Sherpas carrying all your equipment. You'll still get the Instagram photograph on the summit. You can still hashtag it Everest conquered, but actually all you've done is pay for someone else to do all of the work. And I mean the mental work, the risk analysis, the safety work, the route finding, all of that work. And that's just shortcutting. So I think both climbers and people in business should put more focus on learning skills. Not only because it means that when you eventually get to the top of your mountain, that's your success. You owned that. You didn't just pay someone else to do it for you. But because when life changes, the weather changes, the world changes, it all takes you by surprise. You aren't left with nothing because your goal has vanished. You're left with this entire set of skills. And now what you need to do is pivot them. So my skills take me up all sorts of different mountains all the way around the world. They take me onto all sorts of other things in wild, adventurous places because they're adaptable. And that's what I mean by pursuing skills rather than goals. Mm-hmm. And when I think about a project, I actually think about, even if this project fails, will I have learned something by participating? And if the answer is yes, and the project is interesting, it's like, okay, I'm in. And I don't have to be crushed if it failed. Yeah. Because I know I'm going to walk away with something valuable.
Wow. So that fits into your statement I heard you say, which was be good enough to start, then trust the process, right?
I feel this is particularly important for women because we're a little inclined to be perfectionists. We don't want to start unless we're 100% sure we can do everything that's required. We're a little inclined to be underconfident, not want to put our hands up unless we're super sure we can do everything that's needed. Whereas I think we know, again, generalizing here, but a lot of men are just like, yeah, I can do that, not a problem. And of course, what they're actually doing is Googling frantically in the background to work out what they need to know. And I would encourage women perhaps not to be quite that cocky or quite that disorganized, But it comes back to having that rucksack of skills that you've been developing. So you don't know which ones are going to be used on this project, but you know that you have a set of solid skills and you're continuing to develop them. This is not one and done. This is a lifelong process of education. And then you know, and again, it's because you are committed to lifelong education, that you can learn. Good enough to start and good enough to learn quickly on your feet as the project, whatever it is, the experience unfolds. And by the time you get near the end, you'll be good enough to deal with whatever it is.
Wow. So I know you've reinvented yourself probably many times in your lifetime, particularly through all your Himalayan and mountain experiences, I would say. Any forms of reinventing yourself in the future? Any plans, or are you continuing to do speaker?
This is a completely personal point of view.
Yes.
I'm going to push back a little bit about reinvention.
Sure, no problem.
Because I think in a superficial form, it can be people scrabbling around in the dark. I failed at this. I'm going to throw all of that out, never think about it again, reinvent myself as that. And then you discover 2 years later, you're doing the same thing. This didn't work. You're throwing all of it out, forgetting it ever happened. And so that's the sort of superficial version of reinvention. And I think it's a terrible mistake. Because you're not learning from your mistakes, because you just push everything behind you and focus on the new goal. You're also not building. You don't climb a mountain by rushing 10 steps up here and then rushing back down, and rushing 10 steps up there and rushing back down. You build, even if you change direction. So each pivot is a bit of a Silicon Valley word. But I think there's something to be said for it, because the idea, if you built to here, it turns out this isn't quite where you want to go anymore. So you're going to move this way. But you're not going to lose what you've gained. You're going to learn from mistakes. You're going to build on successes. And now you're going to continue moving in a slightly different direction. So that's where I think reinvention is powerful. Don't lose the good stuff you've done already, you've learned already. If you really are having to throw it all out and start from scratch, you need to think about why. Why did the last thing go so wrong that you're left with nothing from it? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on reinvention.
No,
I think more of it is being flexible about the journey you take through life, but continuing to build on what you're good at.
Great. I love that too. So what's your final thoughts or last words of wisdom? That was great, but anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up for the day?
It's a journey. Life is a journey. There isn't, in my opinion, some ultimate goal or some prize we get to win and call it done. It is a journey that never stops until the day we die. And we get the most out of that journey about remaining curious, remaining flexible about where that journey takes you, being open to opportunities you didn't expect, and taking the time to stop and look back. Don't be forever chasing some goal that you're never quite managing to reach because you keep on upping the stakes. Stop, look back, look at what you've achieved. Look at what you learned from your mistakes. Look at what you achieved with your successes. Look at the confidence you built just by surviving through the years. And then take that confidence, combine it with curiosity, and just keep moving forward on your journey.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cathy, for giving us your exciting journey, your passion, your words of wisdom. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And that was Cathy O'Dowd. Thank you, Cathy. And make sure you leave anything else? Sorry, Cathy. So make sure you leave some comments, ahas, and thoughts for our speakers. Get some positivity, love, and thanks going. And please make sure to listen to the next interview. Goodbye for today, and we will see you later.